I'm making this channel because I want to reconnect to my spiritual practices that I did for quite a few years actually. I'm currently 28 and from the age of 22 I started doing a lot of spiritual practice. Like before 17 I did it for a little bit, but from the age of 22 I really did it a lot. And look at it. Like, I got a chair in the garden, which is basically like a chair to just sit and feel, right? And I pointed towards the trees to try and not get distracted. And yes, I've been, I've been away from spiritual practice for a very long time, and I just moved into this house and I want to make a new start and get connected to myself again. But that is actually really difficult for me, I must be honest, because now I take a 1 week break where I can actually just connect to myself again. But it's so difficult, and I actually now want to take the challenge to just sit here for 2 hours and see what happens. Like in the past few days, this is like my second day off, but a few days ago also had a bit of time to sit. But it's so difficult to just sit if you haven't been doing it for a very long time. And it's not like I have to sit in that chair only for the whole time. I can also just like walk around in the garden, but I want to once again quiet my mind a little bit, and mainly quiet my mind in order to feel what is going on in my body, because a lot of things have to be processed, like a lot of emotions. I have been through a lot of things in the last few years. I had a very big physical accident, was in a lot of pain. I tried to not feel the pain and physical pain from all the injuries that I had, and then I also just started to basically not feel my body anymore, and also physically not feel my emotions anymore, which as a kid I was also not, as a teenager, I was also not really doing much. But then my early 20s, mid 20s, got into it again. But then that accident came, and I just I basically stopped practicing. Like a little bit here and there I did, but never like a dedicated practice. And now this week off I want to take to reset my body, my system. And it's basically a week of vacation, and it feels so strange to not do anything, not consume anything. I'm still doing a little bit of things here and there at the house, but to not consume anything, and to also not just constantly think, because you can also just sit in a chair, but also just constantly think, which is also means better than consuming, probably, if you're trying to do like a bit of a reset. But you need to do a little bit more than that. You need to just be able to step away from thinking as well, and that's when you can really start to process. And what usually starts to happen is that when you do that, it can be quite tiring. Or for example, in your dreams, a lot of stuff can come up because you've started to let go of some surface tension, and then the deeper stuff comes up and you can get emotional. And so specifically the practice that I will do now is the letting go practice by David Hawkins, which is one of the two main practices that I do. So it's that David Hawkins practice, and then also a surrender to the soul practice by a guru named Maharishika. Those two things those two practices are the ones that I do. Or I mean, I want to start doing again. I have been doing them a little bit in the last few days, but I want to do them more and longer again, because let's say if you've been in your body, like very present, um, you don't really need to practice. Like if you feel like you're very grounded and you've basically like processed everything, you don't necessarily need to practice. Just like moment to moment, try and act from your true self, not from ego or from the soul, whatever you want to call it. Like act from that. But if you're like me and you've been avoiding your emotions and pains and whatever it is, and you haven't really been feeling yourself for like 2 years, practicing 10 minutes a day is probably not enough. And you might need, like me, some longer time. So that's why I'm going to set an alarm clock of 2 hours, and then hopefully I'll be back to you guys, and yeah, we'll be able to see what happened and if I was able to do it. Because now I seem to only be able to like sit there for like 15 or 20 minutes, and then there's too much stuff coming up and I want to avoid it. And instead of just sitting with it, because it's basically it's quite a pleasant experience if you just let everything just come up and you just sit with it and you feel it and you just let it be, and then it goes, and you feel your energy, like your spiritual energy going up. You feel that physically you're starting to recover, and sometimes there's even some yawning or starting to get sleepy or whatever. It's like your body recovering, but it's something that it's been so foreign for me to actually rest. I've also been noticing that my sleep for the last few months, it's not been very good quality sleep, and then I often had to like sleep longer, or I just didn't wake up energized. And also that's why now I want to do this for the next. I have a few more days of vacation, so I'll just sit in the chair and yeah, try and feel. Just a short follow up. Um, I still had some food, so I'm only going to start now. But I wanted to say something about what happened during I was eating the food. So actually, um, when I was in my early 20s, I was not like, unlike most people, I was not addicted to my phone. Like, I didn't really use my phone that much at all. Most of the time when people were calling me, I was not picking up because, I was putting my phone on silent mode. I was not really using it that much. But then when I went to India and I started working as a volunteer there, I had to be available 24/7, and I had to use my phone like all the time. And that was basically when I got into this thing, which I think most people have, is basically just phone addiction. And like for example, now today I'm alone here at home, and I'm just eating, and it's like just eating food doesn't seem enough anymore. You always need something else. You always need like a video that you're watching, or an article that you're reading, or like both at the same time, or whatever. It's just crazy. And that is what I intend to get rid of again. Because in the past, like now, 2 hours of sitting, it's gonna be like a challenge. Whereas in the past, 2 hours of sitting I was sometimes just sitting in a chair for 4, 5, 6 hours. I mean, sometimes occasionally going to grab something to drink or to eat, but I could literally sit hours and hours and hours, and it was not really difficult, and I was really enjoying it. But now, for some reason, I also got into this phone addiction thing. It's not as it's not that crazy. I don't have like the insane, phone use numbers. But for me, it is quite crazy because in the past, I literally was hardly using my smartphone. And in the last few years, I've been using it a lot as well. And I just have to admit that I got addicted like everyone else. So now I'll put this timer on, and then we will maybe see each other again in 2 hours. I'm done with the 2 hours. I actually managed to do it, but it was very, very, very hard. I did at some point write down here in the beginning, and what did I write down? With a tamed mind, discipline is effortless. I remembered that when I was doing Seva, which is spiritual service, or let's say being a spiritual volunteer, when I got into the state of, just being surrendered and not allowing ego to interfere as much as I could, because it was, no ego is basically impossible, but very little ego. And so that came to mind. But then I realized, well, actually, if I sit here, there's probably gonna be many thoughts coming up that I could write down, and maybe that writing down is also gonna be a distraction. So I didn't come in too much, because I felt like, well, it's actually taking me away from feeling. But it was just one thing that I still wrote down, which was, after I think about 40 minutes, and what it was is that I started to notice that my smell started to get better. I actually didn't notice it before, but my smell had been very, very dull. And all of a sudden I started smelling, whatever it was in nature, some flower smells. And I did not manage to keep, sitting the whole time. I also moved my chair because I wanted to be in the sun. Now the sun is slowly going down. But it's been quite a challenge to do this, but I do feel that it was. Let's see if we can see the sun. It's still too bright, actually. But yeah, what I wanted to say is that I managed to do it, and I felt like, well, this is something that actually I have 5 more days of vacation, and I don't have, there's a few plans, but I actually intentionally didn't make too many plans, because I want to reconnect to myself by doing my spiritual practice again. And in the end, a lot of things came up, like a lot of things about to-dos, about financial things, about work. It's been a challenge, but I saw again that it's possible, and now actually speaking to the camera, I already see that. You probably notice it, that I'm more calm, not actually speaking in the way that most people are speaking the whole time. And I was like, well, let's make this sort of a challenge every day. For today I already did it. This is day 1, and then for the next 5 days, I want to sit for 2 hours at least. Actually, today I still plan to sit for longer. I was actually not always sitting. I was always I was sitting quite a lot, but then I was also just walking around the garden, which I think is also just fine if you try and just focus on feeling. You don't have to be too strict. I'm not. I did it in the past a couple of times, very strict meditations and all, but I don't really do that anymore. I try to just, feel what comes up as this David Hawkins letting go practice, and yeah, then just actually feel it and let it go. Um, and sometimes also what I do is I try to, like, one of the techniques in the letting go method is that, for example, there's something that you want to do which is challenging, and it's a bit of a fear that you have around something, like go to the worst case scenario and actually call in that fear or that situation, and or shame or whatever it is, like depending on what it is, and just sit with it and process it, and then the fear for the event, if it would happen, would be way less, and therefore you're not really afraid of it anymore. And it helps with living fearlessly and unapologetically, which is, after all, what I want for my life. I want to be more fearless. And I mean, I used to be, when I was doing spiritual service, I was actually of course there were limits, and I definitely didn't go as far as I could, but I was already quite fearless, like the things that I did, because I was trained by a spiritual master to basically let go of fears and attachments, and also because the work we had to do was so intense, not just when it came to physical intensity, also when it came to like the amount of hours, also when it came to mental intensity. It was quite crazy, honestly. And like, if you were not fearless, you were just wasting energy, wasting time, and you could not afford that. So you had to step into that state. But in the Western world, we are usually quite comfortable. Like it's crazy. Like now I'm living in a nice house with a nice garden. Like when I was living in India, I mean, I literally had to wipe my number two with my hands for months. And I was lucky when I had some water to, like, a sprayer, but most of the time in the first few months I had to use my bare hand to wipe it. So just imagine, that's just one of the things that now comes to mind. Or like, we're having like 5 power cuts a day, like or sometimes my bed was just full of ants. Like I remember a time when there were literally hundreds of ants, and at some point it was like, whatever, like I just want to sleep, I'm tired, and was so uncomfortable, of course, but I just slept with it. I just did it. I mean, and I want to get back to that. So let's say this is day 1, and tomorrow I want to do this again. And for tonight, my plan is to definitely sit a little bit more. How long? I don't know, but yeah, just to sit a little bit more and see where it gets me. It wasn't comfortable, but at the same time, it was quite beautiful, and I felt a lot of relief, and the releasing of some tension in my body. So that's always a good signal. So yeah, have a good day. If you feel inspired, please join me. Just, if you have a garden, that's ideal, but you don't need to have a garden. You can also just, like, in a room where ideally there's not too much distraction apart from, this is why I like to sit outside in the garden with nature, like close to the trees, because if you're in a living room, like, I mean, here we don't have a TV, but let's say you have a TV close, or a lot, like a big bookshelf, it will probably distract you very easily. Also, don't try to do this in your desk space. I mean, if you're living in a studio and it's all in one place, then you don't really have a lot of choice. I mean, maybe you have to do it at the toilet or something, but or I don't know, sitting in the bathtub or something. I mean, you can be creative. When I was doing it before in India, I was living in a very very small room with many people, like um, sometimes with one other person, sometimes with three other people, like, and I was also still able to do it. Like, it doesn't, you can create like this. I mean, this is a really good setting. Like, this is like a almost an ideal setting, but if you're really dedicated, it doesn't really matter. And you can also just, like, if you have a forest close, try and go to the forest, or like a small park or something. um, or if you live close to the sea, you can go there and just try and sit, and or like at least walk around. Try not to go too much into thinking. I mean, I did go a little bit into thinking, of course, like thinking just keeps on going, but try not to dive too deep into it, and try and come back to feeling what's inside of your body. Because the thing is actually that feeling those things, it's actually, it is not actually uncomfortable. What makes it uncomfortable is that we were taught to resist our feelings. And so in our bodies, in our minds, there's so many, let's say in our minds, not in our bodies, I would say. In our minds, there's so many programs created to resist feeling. And those mind programs are translated into physical tension and like certain movement patterns and all. And so, yeah, what makes it hard is that trained resistance to the feeling. But the feeling itself is actually very pleasant. Like, it's literally, you feel your body opening up. Like, you feel, I don't know if you noticed, but now it's already shifting a little bit. My voice in this part after this sitting is quite different from how it was before. And that is something that happens when you just let your body basically relax. It's just crazy how unable we modern people are to relax. It's just crazy. So enjoy. Please go ahead and try and do something like this if you feel like this could help you. Um, what my plan is now to do it like 2 hours a day for also the next 5 days, and then when I start working again next week, my goal is to do it for 1 hour per day, which is still, I mean, that's a considerable amount of time, but I feel I need it because I got so away from my centeredness, my presence. I was not present at all. Like, my mind was incredibly scattered. Even now I feel it's still quite scattered, but I feel it's already quite a bit better now compared to like 2 days ago. um but it should probably continue to improve. And yeah, I just feel that I need this 1 hour a day going forward to actually deliver good work. And not just that, also just to feel that joy and physical openness again. But yeah, I'm taking it, made me on a tangent again. Now it's just about the sitting. Please go ahead and try this. If you do this every day, or at least almost every day consistently, your life is going to change a lot. Like that, I can tell you. But yeah, good luck, and have a nice evening or morning or whatever it is where you are in the world.